John Ross, and I'm coming to you today again from my clinic in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Today we're going to continue with our discussion of the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine, and we are going to be talking about some of the basic principles of Asian philosophy, in particular yin-yang theory. If we have time today, we'll get into the beginnings of what's called five-phase or five-element theory as well. And these are some of the very basic concepts that are used in Asian medicine, in original longevity medicine, and I'd like to introduce them to you here. If it seems very basic, I'm glad that you're an experienced practitioner. If it's new information for you, I hope that I'm presenting it clearly enough that it makes some sense for you. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with Chinese cosmology and philosophy, both. According to Chinese Taoist scriptures, the universe was initially without life. The world had just cooled down from its fiery creation, and all was foggy and blurry, without differentiation or separation, with no extremities or ends. This state was called Wu Qi, literally no extremity. So there is a formless state called Wu Qi. From the formless state, the form is created. That initial stage of creation is divided into two extremes known as yin and yang. This polarity is called Tai Chi, which means grand ultimate or grand extremity, and also means very ultimate or very extreme. So from Wu Qi, or nothingness, no extremity, comes Tai Chi, grand extremity, or the very ultimate. And this is the propensity, the capacity, the potential for things to divide into polar opposites, into yin and yang. It's the propensity, the capacity for it. It hasn't yet exactly divided into yin and yang. That's the next step here. It's this initial separation which allows and causes all other separations and changes. Once you start a motion, it's possible to modify or redirect it, but this modification is only possible after the motion has been started. If one change is made, others can be made, and each change opens up other possibilities for variation. Each factor in the situation introduces other factors as possible influences. The initial motion that started in Tai Chi and separated into yin and yang, the initial motion made all of the motions possible and in a sense created the other motions. The Chinese express this by saying that Tai Chi is the mother of yin and yang. Tai Chi begets two poles. Two poles produce four phases. Four phases generate 8 trigrams. And the 8 trigrams initiate 64 hexagrams, the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. Yin and yang theory is used to classify everything, whether ideas, spirit, strategy, or force. For example, female is yin and male is yang, night is yin and day is yang, weak is yin and strong is yang. It is from the interaction of all the yin and yang that life was created and grew. Now, a number of symbols have been created to express this. The probably most familiar one is the circle that's half dark and half light. Not exactly perfect in this diagram, but it'll do. So the dark represents yin, the light represents yang. A few things that we can notice first is what's called the gooseneck here, this smooth line that's a curved dividing line between yin and yang. That implies that both yin and yang are generated and created in roundness. They interact smoothly and efficiently. Extreme yang weakens and becomes yin. Extreme yin weakens and evolves into yang. One evolves into the other and back again, continuously and without stopping. The diagram also shows a small spot of yin within the yang and a small spot of yang within the yin. This means there's no absolute yin or yang. Yin and yang are always in relative, in relation to each other. Yang always reserves some yin and vice versa. This implies there's a seed of source of yin or source of yin and yang and a source of yang and yin. So we can see how this can be used to divide reality in all of its forms. We're going to be speaking of it in particular in terms of the seasons, the seasonal changes that occur, and then go into a little bit about five-element theory. But let me just reiterate what we've just gone through. We've started from Wu Qi, from the formless. We've come to a state where there was a propensity, if you will, for there to be a division into opposites, into two opposites, into the yin and the yang. From there we come into what we call the four phases, the four possibilities of the combinations of these lines. Two lines, yang and yang and yin and yang, yin and yin. Xiao means weak or little, Tai means great or strong. So we have those four phases, Tai yang, Xiao yang, Tai yin. Now these, if we add a third line to them, create the eight trigrams. So we've got heaven, lake, fire and thunder, wind, water, mountain, and earth. And then by combining these trigrams from the bottom up together, we get the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. Now, as an example, before I go there, we can divide this in. We can say pure yang is summer. We get some yang and yin as the yin begins to increase. There's fall. Winter is pure yin. We get some yin and yang in the spring as it opens up. Yang increases, yin decreases till we get to pure yang again, and the cycle continues indefinitely. Now there's a hexagram associated with each of the months. We're going to go ahead and give the hexagram for the month of August, which is the month that we're in. And you can, with this chart, you can break down the hexagrams into their corresponding trigrams. This is Earth. And then the second part of the hexagram is heaven. Now, heaven over earth you would think is the harmonious and natural way. It's a little complicated to explain why that's not the case. It has to do with yang and yin rising and sinking, and the inability to do that with this hexagram. But this is number 12, and it's a disharmony. And those of you that are interested can go ahead and look that up and try to get some sense of why this might be not the best order of heaven and earth, even though it seems like a natural order. We'll talk about that at another time. So I'd like to go into the second chapter. We finished the first chapter yesterday. I'd like to go into the second chapter with this as an introduction of the Yellow Emperor's classic of internal medicine. Chapter 2 is called The Art of Life Through the Four Seasons. And we're going to go ahead and quote just a little bit from this about the full cycle in general, and then a little bit about autumn in particular, just so you get some sense of how to live a good life in the autumn. The art of life in the autumn. So the full cycle can be seen. Spring is the beginning of things when the energy should be kept open and fluid. Summer opens up further into an exchange or communication between internal and external energies. In the fall, it's important to conserve. Finally, the winter is dominated by the storage of energy. The heavenly energy naturally circulates and communicates with the earth's energy. The heavenly energy descends, and the earthly energy ascends. And here we go in this trigram. Here we have nothing blocking heavenly energy from ascending, nothing blocking earth energy from descending. It's a separation of yin and the two trigrams of yin and yang, and that's why it's disharmonious. The heavenly energy descends and the earthly energy ascends. When this intercourse takes place and these energies merge, the result is a balance of sunshine and rain, wind and frost, and the four seasons. If the heavenly energy becomes stuck, sunshine and rain cannot come forth. Without them, all living things cease to be nourished and lose their vitality, and imbalance manifests as storms and hurricanes. Severe and harsh weather disrupts the natural order, causing chaos and destruction. I don't think I need to point out that this is a description of the current conditions. The transformation of yin and yang in the seasons is the basis of the growth and destruction of life. The sages were able to cultivate the yang energy in spring and summer and conserve the yin energy in autumn and winter. By following the universal order, growth can occur naturally. If this natural order is disregarded, the root of one's life will be damaged and one's true energy will wane. Therefore, the change of yin and yang through the seasons is the root of life, growth, reproduction, aging, and destruction. By respecting this natural law, it's possible to be free from illness. The sages have followed this, and foolish people have not. In the old days, the sages treated disease by preventing illness before it began, just as a good government or emperor was able to take the necessary steps to avert war. Treating an illness after it has begun is like suppressing revolt after it has broken out. If someone digs a well when thirsty or forges weapons after becoming engaged in battle, one cannot help but ask, are not these actions too late? So let's talk about autumn now, and we'll wrap up for today. This is how to live a good life in the autumn. In the 3 months of autumn, all things in nature reach their full maturity. The grains ripen and harvesting occurs. The heavenly energy cools, as does the weather. The wind begins to stir. This is the changing or pivoting point when the yang or active phase turns into its opposite, the yin or passive phase. One should retire with the sunset and arise with the dawn. Just as the weather in autumn turns harsh, so does the emotional climate. It's therefore important to remain calm and peaceful, refraining from depression, so that one can make the transition to winter smoothly. This is the time to gather one's spirit and energy, be more focused, and not allow desires to run wild. One must keep the lung energy full, clean, and quiet. This means practicing breathing exercises to enhance lung qi. Also, one should refrain from both smoking and grief, the emotion of the lung. This will prevent kidney or digestive problems in the winter. If this natural order is violated, damage will occur to the lungs, resulting in diarrhea with undigested food in winter. This compromises the body's ability to store in winter. So that is the wisdom for today from the Yellow Emperor's Classic, Chapter 2. We're going to end there for today. Tomorrow we're going to go into 5-element theory a little bit, 5-phase theory, and that's going to be the start of an entirely new and very broad discussion. So I thank you for your time today. Remember, every moment is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to practice and be of benefit, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for your time.